You know, most gaming conventions skew heavily male, right? And there are some single males who go to these conventions and they can hope to meet, you know, a female or vice versa. Well, no, a female wins if she goes to a gay convention. But the cruise itself, like, we're only a part of it, right? So aside from the gamers, like, you can enjoy time with us as like a summer camp together via on a boat. And then afterwards, if you want to mingle with non-gamers or just anyone who's on the boat, that's also there too. So we will not have a sausage boat, if you will.
They told me not to be so arrogant on the intro when I have less subscribers than the math to the video. But funk that, let me be real for a minute. We've been here for years to do what we do cause we love it. We interview people from the game community. It doesn't matter if you're new or a huge celebrity. Like getting rid of Derek profile so you can hate me. Because a thumbs down is seriously stupid currency. Shows is smart, funny, and makes you think. Kills off most of our viewers with just a wink. We're here for you, all Lord supporters. I'm like Bernie Sanders, send me your nickel diamond quarters. We love our guests, except the ones that say no. I make too many intros for the Obsolete Gamer Show. That's right, sit back, relax, it's the Obsolete Gamer Show.
When I first came to Miami, one of the first things that I did is I got my computer and I went online and I started looking for places to play video games. And I went on sites, I started searching for places, and I found like Cali, I found GameSpy, and I found Durango. And on Durango, they had different sections. And what was really cool is they had a section just for Miami. And from there, I got with a group of people who they told me, hey, we're going to start this LAN party. And from there, they connected me with this LAN party called Red Eye. And from there, I went to this LAN party with all these people from all over South Florida that came together and was connecting their computers and playing all these awesome games. I was like, wow, this was cool. And I met all these people, and from there, I made basically almost all my friends that I have still today. I got connected with Alienware, which is based out of South Florida, and you know, still today, I connect with all these people. And one of the things that I learned was getting together in the community with people that you meet is really important, especially, you know, online. It's really great, you can meet all these people, but to be able to meet people in your own community and go out and hang out and have meetups and things like that is really awesome. So it's really great, you know, when you see people putting in work and trying to build a community of gamers that you can actually hang out. So I'm really happy to be talking today with Andrew. And you know what, I'm, you know, I've known you for a while, but I've butchered so many freaking names. I'm not gonna do it today, so I'm just gonna let you do it. Why don't you tell me the correct pronunciation of your last name so I don't kill it?
Yeah, fair enough. It's a long one. So it's Fratarcangeli. When you look at it in segments, it's Frat Arcangeli, which is brother of the Archangel.
Oh Lord,
Yep.
see, I would have, I would have destroyed that last name. Holy shit!
Yeah, I
All
usually
right.
get it called Fratarcangeli, all kinds of things. It's crazy.
See, I thought it was bad with my last name where people would say like Lara Q, but no, that last name I would have destroyed that.
Did you ever see the Key and Peele skit?
Oh
With
yes,
the substitute. Hey, Ron.
yes. So okay, so I mean, you put together a lot. Not only do you have like Game Trap, you have Make Games Miami, and what we're going to be talking about, the GaCuCon, the cruise that you guys got coming up, a long endeavor that you've been working on for a long time. But let's start with the beginning, because I mean, with us with Obsolete Gamer, I mean, we thought just putting it together, trying to get something like that off the ground, getting people to come watch the show, getting social media. Anyone that has tried to put anything together knows how hard it is to get people engaged. But what you're trying to do, not only trying to get gamers engaged, come out to events, you know, you're working with colleges, things like that. You know, it takes a lot of work. Can you tell us about the beginnings? You know, what was your motivation in trying to get things, you know, off the ground?
So originally, I met Frank, my co-founder for everything at Tiger Direct. Pop up here in the background. There you go.
Hello.
What's up,
Yeah,
Frank?
we met at Tiger Direct, and we were just talking about making a game. So that kind of led into like, okay, well, how do we start? How do we get to meet people and like, you know, find an artist, find the a hardcore programmer and kind of get something off the road or off the ground. And we used to meet during lunch, our 1 hour lunch from working at a corporate, cubicle style job. And then started looking around for meetups and different things. And there were actually a few meetups down here, but they weren't as active. And by chance, I had an individual contact me to start the Miami Game Developers Meetup. That was the first, that was like version 1 of the community where it's at now. So we did a couple events with him, but over time, he didn't have much time to contribute towards this, and he had some problems with the Florida Game Developers Association, which is another group we work with that tries to help the entire state as far as events. So that kind of is what spawned Make Games Miami. It was like the peace pipe to unite multiple groups and kind of still have the same thing going on. But yeah, I mean, it all started from there, really. Like the need of the network is what drove us to start doing this, right? And it was super simple. I mean, the hardest thing for us was finding the venue. And then from there, because so many people wanted to start making games here in Miami, once we went on Meetup and it did its automatic like email distribution, we started having like 5, 10 people showing up, 20 people. Now we're in like the 30s and 40s. So over like 2 years, we're a pretty stable group with 2 events a month. So it's been pretty interesting, really fast.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, for people who are outside of South Florida, you might not understand the connection, but Tiger Direct is pretty big in South Florida, and then you also had like people who was connected with Alienware. A lot of people were connected with Tiger Direct as well. There's a lot of back and forth. A lot of people know the people back and forth in there, and you'd have people that are interested in like LAN parties and game development and things like that, and you also had like the colleges. What was interesting to me, not only just talking about gamers, but you had people who want to create games. And when I went out to LA, you always had that thing, not only with games, but with film. People always talking about, oh man, I have to go out to LA and do this. And in the film community, they have a thing where they're saying, hey, never LA. Like you don't have to go out to LA necessarily to get into film. And I know that's one of the things that you are working with here in Miami as well, saying that, yes, obviously it's not going to be like LA where you have all these gigantic game companies, but the idea is you don't necessarily have to go out to LA to make a game. You can make it anywhere, as you've seen lots of game companies are making Canada, Seattle, places like that. And that's one of the things that you've been working with too, colleges and development for gamers who want to make games here as well.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I mean, in today's day and age, right, like we're doing an interview online here, we're getting, everything that we need done. The same thing for development. Like there's no real reason anymore to geolocate yourself near other people aside from the human contact point, which is a big thing in a lot of cases. But as far as getting a product done and getting the game, or say the game, getting a game done and meeting talent, you could work online completely. And then on top of that, you have like Make Games Miami or other local groups as well. So the move to LA, like anti-movement, is something that we back big time. We actually have a panel about that specifically coming up in October at Miami-Dade College's animation conference. So it was specifically themed around there about film and not moving to LA, or talented artists or programmers having to move. So it's all about building locally, right? Because it's possible. We have the tools, we have the talent. There's no reason why we can't.
And as far as the events, I've been out to the local events, getting people together, not just for video games, board games as well. That's something that's blowing up. Board games have been around forever, obviously before even video games, but that's also making a big comeback. People love the board games that are coming out. Can you tell us about that aspect of trying to create these events, getting people to come out, especially older people who, love to engage in a nice cold tasty beverage, and mixing those two together? Especially, look, Miami, you have the clubs. I mean, the aspect, there's been a lot of articles written that not all gamers are sitting at home just chilling
Yep.
on in their basements or whatever stereotype. Especially in Miami, we like to go out and party. We like to have that club atmosphere. And you see here that we'll go out on a Friday, Saturday night and enjoy that kind of fun and still play games. And we see that at these type of events, especially the ones that you guys have done.
Yeah, what's really interesting is the game pub concept. which is kind of popping up across the country and hopefully down here eventually. We did do that event that you got to attend where I met an owner of a bar called Ellswood Pub downtown. And I thought it was only going to be like, 20 people maybe. But we ended up packing out the event, if you remember. And the place sold out of food. We had people playing board games, all kinds of card games. There were a Wii's hooked up to the TVs. It's an interesting thing, right? Like you were saying, the average gamer isn't what most non-gamers think of us, right? Like we're older now, right? Like we're in our 30s, we have disposable income, and we like to drink, and we like to socialize, and we like to play. It's the same reason why bars exist in the first place, right? Like it's infinitely cheaper to just stay home and chug a bottle by yourself to get drunk if that's the goal. But most of the time, it's like you go out to drink because it's a social aspect. The same thing with gaming, right? Like by nature, it's social, especially board games, card games. So people going out and doing these things together, even though they can just play online, it's a huge thing, right? Like that's why it happens. Like why stay home when you could play with others and see, your opponent's face of despair as you crush them, or the joy of your partner as you defeat a challenge of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as the educational aspect, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's really interesting going back to the idea that, people who are interested in game development don't necessarily have to go somewhere else. Obviously, you don't necessarily have to go to college to be a game developer, but now you're seeing more courses being added. Like Miami-Dade has a course now. They have a nice campus, a facility downtown that you can go and see. Can you tell us about your work with the college campuses and, having people come out and speak? We've seen people who have done game development go out. We've seen businesses like Origin PC, Alienware come and speak about what it takes to be in the industry, and that's really been great for people who want to get into the gaming industry. I mean, it's so great that years ago it was like, oh, you're playing video games, that's not going to amount to anything, and now people legitimately could get into gaming and not necessarily playing video games, even though that's a route with pro gaming, but you have so many fields in gaming that this can be a lucrative path for a career. Can you just tell us about that aspect of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean that concept, the notion that you're hitting on there is exactly why like the first company that we started for this, Game Trep, came about. It's for game entrepreneurs, right? Like there's so many ways you can get into the industry now. You're not tied to, you don't need a bachelor's or a master's in it. The industry is hugely portfolio driven from everyone that I've spoken to about it. And the same thing, like even me working with contractors or bringing people on board, I'd rather see what you can do versus your degree. A piece of paper is great and all because it says, hey, you can live up to deadlines, but it doesn't speak to your talent and your drive, right? So I think that's why like the start of the industry kind of led with that, and it's stuck with that, which is good. But it's also rough because you have to be like after school, if you are going to school for game design, you have to be putting in time to make your own game, make your own assets, your portfolio, stuff like that. But it's also good too because technically you don't need school, right? Like if you don't have the money or the access, YouTube, Udemy, Lynda, any of those, you can start picking up skills. And the barrier to entry has never really been lower, right? Like the Unreal 4 engine is free, Unity's free. They have all these different tools. You can use Blender if you're doing modeling. All these different tools you can use without even paying anything, right? So you can start like today. If you were interested in making games, you could just download all these things and start playing around with it and then chipping away at it. Now it's a big task, but if you take a good learning approach, right, and start with very small projects, very, very small things, like, oh, I'm gonna open up Unreal and I'm gonna put a block in the engine and I'm gonna make it move with the controller. That's a good first start, right? And then from there, when you really think about it, you're gonna just eventually swap out the block with a character, start adding in assets, you start looking at more complex designs. So it's very practical now. The market is very, I guess, flooded in a sense because the bar is so low, but that's where passion comes through, right? Like a lot of people want to make games, but it comes down to like, how bad do you really want to do it?
Yeah.
So the cool thing is, with the schools, at least, they picked us up real quick. Anytime that I've gone to any of the major schools, I was like, hey, can we do a meetup here? And they were like, oh yeah, that's great, because they know the value it brings, right? Like it gets the kids out of class afterwards to learn some extra skills or get to know people because it's important. So
Now, before we get into the GaCuCon and the cruise, Now we have like Florida SuperCon. Long time ago they had like the EverQuest cons, but even though that's more like Orlando, there's also little cons here and there. We've had like the pinball things like that, a couple of retro gaming cons, smaller cons. Um, Maybe I'm missing something, but why isn't it that we don't have a big video game convention here? Why do we see it in other places? I understand, obviously, California, Seattle, we have like PAX East. What is it about Florida? Like, why isn't it that we can't get one? I mean, this looks like it would be a perfect place, a vacation spot, nightlife. I mean, Vegas gets it. You know, what's missing here? Like, I mean, you're plugged in. Do you have an answer that would maybe
I
make
think
gamers understand?
yeah, I don't know, like from growing up down here and being a gamer, right? Like I lived a double life, and I'm sure most South Florida like gamers have to an extent where you have like the gaming side and then you have like your front end persona that you kind of have to do because Miami, like it's an underground culture here, right? Like it has been for so long, unfortunately. We did have a lot of cool things, but they never really became mainstream or large enough because of stigmas or other things that are here, in Miami. Fortunately, we've been beating that back like no tomorrow over the last 2 years, and we are making a game convention happen. And there has been interest from other people that I've spoken to, but I think a lot of it also had to do with you do have Florida SuperCon and they do have gaming events at them, but a pure gaming event, if you were to have like say a gigantic LAN area and then VR displays and on, it's a little bit more cost prohibitive than the normal convention, right? Because say for an anime convention you'd need the space, tables, artists, screening room, stuff like that, but gaming adds on the extra layer of complexity because then you need like high speed internet at your venue and high end machines. You can't just get by with like low stuff. So it's a little bit more hard to step into to create a game convention. So maybe that's one of the big reasons why someone hasn't just been like, yeah, let's do this. But aside from that, there has been interest in the last few years, at least that I've been involved. We're just pulling the trigger on it now, though, ourselves. So hopefully it keeps going from there. But aside from that, Miami has always had like the dual culture thing, as far as I've seen.
So as far as GaCuCon and the cruise, now I know that this project that you've been working on it for a while, and when people see the cruise, of course, some people are like, "Wow, that sounds awesome," but with anything, especially gamers, you have the skeptics, and right away someone's gonna be like, "A cruise? Gamers on a cruise?" And immediately the stereotypes kick in. I'm a man of logic. So I've been to so many conventions, and like I said, I see the other side. I've been to the World of Warcraft conventions where you'll think, oh, these are going to be the nerds of the nerds. And then you'll go to the hotel, and these guys are partying just as hard as when you're in Vegas. And you'll be like, wait, these are nerds? No, this isn't your old school nerds. And they're partying just like I've been on party boats, and they're partying the same thing. So I know exactly what you're going for on this type of cruise, and I think it's going to be awesome. But tell us about this journey to what you're building here.
So the cruise kind of came about when we were thinking about doing a game convention, basically to be the capstone or like the cherry on top for the community to grow, right? Because we want to make it a national event anyways, or like to eventually. Now we started thinking about that, right? Like there is PAX, there's GDC, there's all these other major conventions, local conventions. So we had to try and figure out a way to kind of do something different that can be extremely enjoyable, hopefully for the guests. That's the idea. And us being older gamers now, we started thinking about like, the conventions are a lot of fun, but they're also very tiring, and you're crowded into a space. And so the cruise came up because I've been on a couple cruises. I love them. Like you just go on, and the moment that you step on, you don't have to worry about driving anywhere. You can get completely hammered and then stumble back to your room if you want. They have food at whatever hours you want, and then they have the other activities as well. It's relaxing. So we figured like, okay, well, is it feasible? Can we actually put a convention on a cruise, especially at our level, right? Like we have to start small. So we spoke with a couple of the cruise partners, originally like Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines and Carnival and Norwegian Cruise Lines. And, they all came back and said, yeah, we can just get you a separate space dedicated for your event. So every day we would have to set up, a LAN area or exhibition or, scavenger hunt setup. Basically each day could be something different in the the spaces that we have allocated. And then they even have space for our guest speakers like Fatality, Greg Street, Ghostcrawler, Destructoid is going to be doing a podcast on there. And we're going to have a whole speaking area for that. So it kind of will be like a hall at a normal convention, except after that, you don't have to worry about driving back to a hotel or anything. You can go enjoy some sun afterwards or go play video games. You could either see some sun, no sun at all, or a little mix of both. And, your feet hopefully won't be as dead as a normal convention. Or go eat a bunch of food or get really drunk. That's your prerogative, right? Like, I'm not going to say what you want to do. So hopefully it's something to differentiate it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's January 26th to 30th, so 4 days. I mean, so it's not like it's a long thing any longer than any convention. And that's the thing. Like, some people were looking like at the price point, and I'm like, well, do you realize that when you fly out to a convention, when you get a hotel, when you think about meals or anything else, that's more than it is for a cruise? And I think that maybe some of the disconnect is people don't realize what is included into a cruise. And like you said, it's all inclusive, unless you're getting packages or anything like that. But when you think about it, it's all right there. And for a cruise, I mean, for like a convention, that's perfect because you're not worrying about anything. You're right there. And then you have like your entire group. It's not like, oh, my friend is at this hotel 3 miles away. This one's at 10 miles away. We're going to eat away over here. It's all right there. It sounds like a no-brainer. And come on, that's like South Florida right there, right?
Yeah, that's definitely representative of us for sure. The convention, the hotel crawl, and just what the example you gave there, just going to get a bunch of friends who are all at different hotels and organize what you're going to do for dinner is like a 3-hour ordeal out of your day that you burn right there. So that is one thing that we fix. And part of the problem is now is it is educating people. We actually had to create a little infographic to show people the cost of like a normal convention and then the cruise, because there is a disconnect there, right? Like it's new. Like most people, as far as like gamers, right, like who haven't gone on thematic cruises like Groove Cruise or music festivals on boats, they won't know. They'll be like, oh man, that's an expensive ticket to go on a convention, but it factors in your hotel, your travel to different locations. So you're not only going to be doing a game convention, you're going to get to visit Cozumel, Mexico. You're going to get to stop off at the Keys and check out what they have going on there. You're going to be in Miami as well. So if you've never been here, you get to experience all that. So when you look at the breakdown, it's pretty good. I mean, hotels alone, right? For us here on the West Coast to travel or for us here on the East Coast to travel to the West Coast, the hotels could be probably half of what the entry-level cruise price is, especially if you're a procrastinator like me and you don't get your ticket until the last moment. So yeah, we have the breakdown. If you go to the price page, you can kind of see the infographic where we have it split up for that reason. But it's something that we have, it's growing pains. That's one of our growing pains, is we have to get through the first year and show people like, hey, there's value in this. We're not gouging or adding anything crazy on there. To be honest, I'm probably going to lose a bit of money on the first year, but it's okay to me because it's an investment in the community, right? Like year over year, we can grow it, and that's going to come back to the community. So we could start an incubator. Hopefully that's the big dream, and get more projects and stuff funded. This is just a kind of a long-term investment for that end. So hopefully it works out.
Yeah, and overall, I mean, it takes work to get a community together, not only in South Florida, but getting everyone else together on board. So I mean, I'm sure we've talked to other people who have done conventions. It takes time, but especially when you're trying to make your own mark, and that's the key with what you're doing here. It's not just a carbon copy of another convention. It's something that's unique, and that sometimes takes time. But once it's there, then it's like, wow, this was a great idea, and it's unique to put your own brand on it, right?
Yeah, that reminds me of an overnight success was made after a year of work. It's kind of going to be that, right? Like if it works out year 2, they're like, wow, this is great. Like you just came up with this amazing idea and it all worked out. Hindsight 2020, it'll be like, yes, that's a great thing. If someone says, oh, this is cool, the idea carried your entire project, I was like, all right, that's fine with me. If it doesn't work out, I'll just be a raving madman who tried to put a bunch of gamers on a boat and it didn't work out. I'll blame Frank. 100%.
I'll take the blame. It was a fun decision.
Hey, and look at it this way. And the showers are right at their room, so people don't got no excuse. It's like, hey,
yes,
your
right.
showers are right there, bro. Go use those things.
Hey, it's a boat. If someone's excessively stank, they're going overboard. I'm just saying.
We're gonna bungee cord you into the water, and you're
Just
gonna
tow
get a
them
shower.
behind. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Destructoid asked a similar question about the cruise too, because they were like, oh, most gaming conventions skew heavily male, right? And there are some single males who go to these conventions and they can hope to meet, a female or vice versa. Well, no, a female wins if she goes to a gay convention. But the cruise itself, like, we're only a part of it, right? So aside from the gamers, like, you can enjoy time with us as like a summer camp together via on a boat. And then afterwards, if you want to mingle with non-gamers or just anyone who's on the boat, that's also there too. So we will not have a sausage boat, if you will.
Yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. I'll say that I've been on plenty of cruises, and most of the time, you gotta think of it as like a summer camp for the most part. Because a lot of these people, like, if you live in South Florida, or look, put it like this: if you live in like a big city, it's one thing. Because when you go on these cruises, you probably think to yourself, these are like boring events. Like, I'm talking about a traditional cruise, because they'll have like a camp event. It's like, oh, we're gonna do macrame, or we're gonna do something else, and most people are up on the top doing like they're at the pool, they're partying, they're drinking and stuff like that. But if you live in Montana and you barely have ever seen the ocean, anything they do on these boats are awesome. So
Yeah.
honestly, introducing gaming and stuff like that is incredible to these boats, because now these events that are happening are awesome. Because now you're like, wow, I actually want to go to these events on the boats instead of just sitting at the pool the entire time or getting off at the stops. So I think the idea of actually wanting to go to these events, well, besides the casino, like you see people
Yeah.
at the casino. So I think the idea is awesome. And what you said about actually having the ladies on the boat, hey, maybe they'll have like a dating thing. It's like, hey, we'll play like
There
love
you go.
match, and then if you get lucky, your room's right there. So
There you go.
that
It's all
sounds
in one,
awesome.
all inclusive. Actually, one on my bucket list on this cruise is to at least play a few games of Magic while being oceanside, right? I'm going to bust out the blue deck and I'm going to completely abuse it.
Nice.
Going to completely abuse it.
So the last thing I want to ask you about is about the Brawl game that you guys are working on.
Yeah. We got so that's actually a game that's it's kind of a living game, right? Like every year we're going to be evolving Gaku Brawl or Gaku some form of game that's a kind of a tribute to the game culture and the game industry. This year we're working on a super condensed timeline because it just came up a little late in the production, but we're making it happen. Our artist Foo Shark, who pop up over here, Foo Shark, he's been slaving away. He probably hates me now, but I'm gonna ply him with beer and get him to work soon. But the game is when we first talked about it, every year we're gonna start incorporating like elements of the event, elements of game culture. So like for example, in Gaku Brawl, one of the characters, a playable character, is called a Gaku. Like it could be a name, it could be the breed. We're still hashing that out, but it's basically a little megalomaniac dinosaur trying to become the super kaiju, right? So it's a little brawl game, a 4-player brawling game, and the colors of Gaku are all representative of different like mainstream characters. So like there's a Metroid palette, a Yoshi palette, stuff like that. There's Easter eggs hidden in there. The character was inspired a lot by like Yoshi and like Pokemon. So we're trying to jam as much like reference of love in there as we can. And then every year past this first year, what we're going to do is also start to incorporate like some of the guests or the exhibitors who are saying like, hey, this is really cool what you're doing with your yearbook game. Let's feature Wasabi from Wasabi Horizon, a local studio down here, or Soulkeeper VR's like gigantic Viking guy, right? You can do these cameos. Or exhibitors, right? Like if Origin PC or Alienware, they say, hey, it's cool, let's put your logo somewhere in there and we can figure out how to make it like not campy like a billboard, then we could do something like that too. Or guests. If someone crushes our scavenger hunt MMO, RPG in real life event on the cruise, maybe next year we'll implement them as like a grand boss or something like that. So it's kind of like, it's a game that's going to evolve. They're all going to be small. We don't want to get crazy scope. We're not going to be making an MMO VR game anytime soon with that. And hopefully it kind of becomes a unique thing every year, something that I haven't seen yet, at least with a convention, to where we can start integrating people, places, and things from the cruise itself.
That's very cool. And like I said, I like the idea overall of a cruise and adding gaming to it, because look, as much as going on a cruise is about getting away and sometimes you almost want to unplug, after like a day or so, I remember taking my DS on the cruise, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna unplug, and then you're
Yeah.
pulling it out, and you're
Yeah.
on the deck and you're enjoying the sun, but I was playing that DS, and then especially when you meet another gamer or you see someone playing something and you start talking gaming, now you can mix the two. I mean, come on.
That's it. You just made a friend for life right there. That's
Yeah, we're gonna put the links up, on the video so you guys can see. I mean, come on, man. And the great thing, like I said, this is Carnival, right?
yeah. This one's with Carnival. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean,
Carnival's
great
sensational.
cruise line. I've been on Carnival a bunch of times. It's good. You get to go to Key West, Cozumel. I've been to Cozumel. It's beautiful beaches and stuff. And I mean, it's just an opportunity to see all this stuff. And you can go on a cruise, hang out with gamers. So I don't know, man. It's in January too, so it's not going to be packed full of people. It's a good time.
Yeah, the weather is going to be really nice. You know how it is down here. Like in January for us is like the best time of the year, when every other time of the year is like an oven. So
yeah,
it's
blazing hot.
fortunate, right? Like, so hopefully our Canadian game dev brothers or our gamers from like the frozen north will come down and thaw out.
Yeah,
A nice air conditioned room, temperatures outside.
and some cool guests like Fatality, Destructoid. I mean, you got a good
Yeah,
list.
yeah, yeah. I can only imagine in the coming years, like I'm fangirling a little bit over some of our guests. Like these are people that I've always wanted to meet. So it was great to me to go with the team here and say like, hey, who do we want to try and reach out to and meet, and get on board, and if you get people excited, right? So it's pretty cool that these guys are all like, oh, this is awesome. Let's do it. So I'm not going to complain at all.
Sweet. All right. So you guys know about this. So we'll put the information up. And if you guys are thinking about doing a little vacation in January, think about this. Hey, Frank, look at that. You're out there. Hi, Andrew. Well, thanks for coming on and talking with us today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Take care, guys.